Hello and welcome back. In today's video I'm going to show you how to create this effect and turn this image from this into this, and of course you can do it with any image that you like. And let's zoom in a little bit. So what this effect does is we want to show this effect in some areas and not show it in some others, as you can see, and it creates this beautiful matrix or old CRT TVs or monitors effect. And in order to do that, I just prepared this matrix kind of effect, and it's basically just a bunch of text with different values of gray. As you can see, this is a desaturated image and it has only whites, grays and blacks. And what I did is I made this a pattern, and to explain this further, how this effect is gonna work, I'm gonna show you in here. So what we have here is just some squares with different values, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy this pattern or this effect that we're gonna use, and I'm gonna place it in here. Let's just transform the size. Okay, and what we're gonna use is one of these blending modes, and these are the contrast blending modes. For example, let's choose overlay. As you can see, the effect is only visible on the two bottom squares. We have soft light, hard light, vivid light, linear light, thin light, and hard mix. These are the contrast blending options or blending modes. And for this tutorial, we're gonna use hard mix. This is the one that uses the most contrast. It is the most contrasty of all of the other blending modes, as you can see. Let's compare it with, for example, overlay. You can see that we can still see some of the effects in other squares, but with hard mix it's only visible in here, barely even visible. So let's try to add this levels adjustment layer. This is just a levels adjustment layer, a normal one. If we, for example, increase the midtones, you can see that now we're viewing some of the other rectangles or other pieces of text. And if we do it this way, you can see that it's visible everywhere. If we, for example, lower the luminosity of the image, it's not going to be visible anymore. And this is because, of course, blending modes help you blend the images using, for example, luminosity, contrast, colors, and saturation. So this is why we chose these contrast blending modes. And in order to create this effect, I'm gonna delete all of this, and let's just start working with this image from scratch. So the size of this effect that I created is 1000 by 1000 pixels. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna choose this image. Let's press Ctrl U and let's desaturate it. We only want to work with black and white. First of all, let's duplicate it since we don't want to lose it. We want to work non-destructively, so we're going to convert this to a smart object. Then we're going to desaturate it. And what we want to do is we want to create similar squares to these. So we want to work on a grid. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to Filter, Pixelate, then Mosaic. And let's change the cell size into 100, for example. And as you can see now, our image is turned into a mosaic, a bunch of squares just like this. Now we're gonna double click our layer and we're gonna go to Pattern Overlay. Let's choose this pattern that we created, and let's go to hard mix. Let's lower the opacity and see. You want to match the size of the squares of the effect to the squares of the mosaic. And in order to do that, let's unlink the layer, and let's see, it's gonna be 10, I guess, since the size of the original file is 1000 pixels, it should be 10. And let's press OK. Actually, let's go back and increase the opacity once again. Let's add a levels adjustment layer and let's see what works best. As you can see, now we created this sample effect and it's starting to look good, but as you can see, the squares are too big, or the mosaic size is too big, so we can't really distinguish the characters. You can barely see that this is Mario, for example. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna double click on the mosaic effect and we're gonna make the cell size, for example, 30. And you can see that we're already starting to see much more details. As for the pattern, let's turn it into 3. Okay, and as you can see, now we can see the effects much better. Let's zoom in and you can see that it's just a bunch of text, like the matrix text. In some areas it's more visible than others, and this is the use of the hard mix blending option. And we can stop here, or we could, for example, add some cool effects to make it green or blue or whatever. Let's turn this layer off, for example, to show you something. What we want to do right now is isolate the white pixels from the black background. This way we could apply whatever filters that we want to the white pixels and without affecting the background. So let's double click this layer again, and now we're gonna use the blend if option. And now let's try to remove the blacks from this layer. Actually, let's first of all activate this option, just like this. And if you only drag it a little bit to the right, we're gonna get rid of the background. Let's just press OK. Now let's turn on this layer that I placed in the beginning. This is just to allow us to see better. You could of course use whatever color that you want for the background. I just want to keep an authentic old screen look, so I chose the black color. Now let's say we wanted to add some glow or some color to this effect. We could, for example, create a new layer and merge the two. Now we have an image that, for example, we could add a solid color. Let's choose this green and clip it, and you could add whatever textures that you want or effects, but we don't want to flatten anything. We want to still work with the smart object, and we want to be able to adjust anything that we want, for example the size of the mosaic or the levels or the pattern itself, because of course you can do this with many other patterns. So the way to do that is, let's double click the layer again, and now if we go to, for example, let's add a outer glow. Actually it's not gonna be visible since we already have some effects, so we're gonna group this layer. We're gonna put it in a group. Just click on the layer, then press Ctrl G, and now we have a group. Let's name it original image, something like this. So let's double click this folder. Now we're gonna apply some blending options to the entire folder, and now we could add, for example, some outer glow or maybe some color overlay. And let me show you how this works. You can see that it works perfectly. So for example, we could work with the color overlay. Let's maybe choose something closer to the movie. Start with something desaturated like this. Then maybe we could add some outer glow. Actually, let's zoom in to see what we're doing. Okay, now let's double click this again, and maybe we could add some linear dodge. Let's increase the opacity and choose a different green, maybe something more saturated, something like this. And we could control the spread or the size, as you can see. But I'm gonna actually work with drop shadow since we have this option, this plus, that allows us to add even more effects. So let's turn this off and click on the drop shadow. Now what we could do is you could choose a different color. Let's actually change the blending mode to linear dodge add. And let's increase the size a little bit and increase the opacity as well. I'm gonna decrease the size. As you can see in here, you can have a preview, and this creates that offset look that old screens used to have. And we're gonna press this plus icon that's gonna allow us to add another drop shadow. Now let's increase the distance a little bit, maybe a little bit of the size, something like this, and let's change this color to maybe something like this. Let's lower the opacity for this one. We're gonna add another one, and let's make this one something like this. Increase the size a little bit more and the distance. Let's play with the opacity and all of these options, and let's add one final one just for good measure. Let's press OK. Now let's zoom back, and as you can see, now we have this beautiful effect. We have some light in some areas, we have some darker areas. And the good thing about this is you could always go back and you're gonna have your levels in here, and you could change how much of the effect that you like. You could of course use these sliders as well to have the look that you like. And you could finish this by adding some grunge effects, or maybe you could place this in a TV and do whatever you like. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to press like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon to receive more notifications about upcoming videos. And if you enjoyed my explanation, you're gonna find the link to my course in the description. So take care and see you in the upcoming video.